Hey, scholars. Happy Sunday to you. 10 miles this morning, half marathon next Sunday. I hope I live through that. Let's talk about quality. First off, definition of quality. There's a lot of them floating around out there. My favorite one is the one that's in my book, which reads that quality is the consistent delivery of a good or service fit for the intention that the company intends and the customer expects. Paraphrasing a little bit, but that's essentially what I think quality is all about. You're going to build a product deliver a service. You're going to do it consistently how you want it done. That doesn't mean quality is always going to be the same for every product. These Ray-Bans, I don't know, they probably cost $125. You would expect them to last a while, right? If I had a pair of cheap sunglasses that cost $3, I wouldn't expect them to last all that long. So fit for the intention, what the company intends and the customer expects. I would expect a lot more out of Ray-Bans than I would out of some cheap pair of glasses I bought just because I needed some sunglasses for a day. So critical part of the definition. Quality doesn't happen by accident in an organization. There's a lot of systems that we reviewed both in chapter 6 in the textbook and in chapter 5 in my first book. Excuse me, on quality. So what are some of those systems that we need to be familiar with? First is ISO. ISO 9000 has a list of quality standards that are consistently used around the world to define quality, primarily in a manufacturing organization. We talked about Six Sigma, and we spend quite a bit of time talking about what is a Sigma. Well, it's, I guess, important, but the reality is that what we're looking for is how many defects are we going to allow in our products. And as I said with Six Sigma, the key there is, it's a big commitment. If somebody's going to say, okay, we're going to run an organization and we're going to use these Six Sigma concepts, that means that you got to do a lot of measuring and you got to take a lot of time to understand what's going on with your product or service. And most organizations will pay lip service to it, but they really don't commit to it. So if you're ever have an opportunity to look at implementing Six Sigma, you can't do it halfway. You got to do it all the way. We talked about what a sigma is, a standard deviation, and the higher the standard deviation goes from 1 to 6, the less defects. The Six Sigma, excuse me, I think is about 1 defect for each 3.4 million attempts. I believe that's it. So, it's virtually defect-free. Yeah, that's the number I'm looking for there. Sorry about that. So we find a defect. If we're using the Six Sigma approach, how do we go about correcting it? We use something called a fishbone diagram. Put that on the board a couple of times. Fishbone diagram basically is going to give the organization some hints as to where you might look. So you might look at, depending on your issue, you might look at the environment. You might look at the people involved. You might look at equipment. You might look at management. You might look at materials. You might look at process. All of those things you're going to look at with the definition of the problem that was experienced kept in mind. So, which one of those 6 attributed to the issue that was caused? And then you fix it. And hopefully you fix it once and it's fixed forevermore. We talked about the Deming wheel a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit more about Deming in a minute, but plan, do, check, act. It's another model that's used in quality. Employee empowerment, again, critical. I did a team building event for a smallish business, about 25 employees on Friday, and most of what I talked about was empowering the employees and empowering themselves. Well, the owners of the business sat back and said, what's he talking about? But at the end of the day, they agreed with me, thank goodness. Benchmarking, you know what I think about benchmarking. Talked about different awards with quality, like the Malcolm Baldrige Award. There's a Deming Award in Japan named after Deming. And The Baldrige Award, I think like so many things that happen, it starts with good intentions, and then people don't actually implement the processes with those good intentions. They implement the process to win the award, and that's just not right. So if you're ever in a position where you're going to go after a Baldrige Award, I mean, don't do it as a facade. Don't just like run a half-inch deep to make sure that you've got all the boxes checked, but run it through your organization. So if you believe in it and do it right. Get the organization actually buying in on it, and implementing things properly. I talked a little bit about the role of inspection and how Deming doesn't really feel that's all that critical. That inspection should be as a part of the production process. I don't necessarily agree with him, but he's Deming and Phil Evelis, so he's one of the giants in quality. My book, page 81, chapter 5. Principally, what I want you to focus on here, and I think there's a lot of good stuff in here, but I want you to focus on Deming, and I want you to focus on Juran. Deming had his 14 points. Juran had his, what do you call him? Creating a culture of quality, quality control handbook. He wrote that. Quality planning, quality improvement, quality control. I mean, that's what Juran was all about. Deming again had his 14 points. Good test question might be if compare and contrast Juran, or maybe you're a manager of a new organization. You want to implement a quality program. You're going to take the best of both Juran and Deming. Tell me what you're going to take from both of them. So, read the chapter, be familiar with it. See ya.